Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. And this edition of the Roundtable Talk, we're introducing a new addition to our talk show, which is called History South Florida. As you know, we introduced part of our segment, which is called Hot Spots in South Florida. And now we're doing History South Florida, where we're going to different parks and different landmarks and telling you about the history of the South Florida area. Initially, we did this a few years back, and we recorded some videos, and it was supposed to be part of our initiative to start a few years ago, but then the videos got delayed, and then eventually the videos got lost, basically, and it was hard for us to recover. And it was at one of the parks in South Florida that we started at. This is not the original park, but I'm going to take you onto a thing. We are at what is now Hugh Taylor Birch State Park, which is right behind me. I'm going to show you right now. We're at Hugh Taylor Birch State Park, which is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, as you can see, we are walking into the park as we speak. Now, the park is a state park. And as you know, there are local parks, there are state parks, and there are national parks. National parks are mostly historical parks. And basically what this is a state park is like the state of Florida has a whole bunch of parks that they're associated with. Now, I'm walking inside of the park. Basically, each park has a fee. Like here it says vehicles are $6 per vehicle and $2 per person for pedestrians. So of course I will have to pay $2 to get into this park. Let me get my $2 out with here. But this park is an interesting park because it sits less than half of a mile away. Well, less than a half a mile from Fort Lauderdale Beach, which makes it more interesting because Fort Lauderdale Beach is one of the hottest beaches in the South Florida area, other than South Beach and Miami Beach as well. I'm gonna go through and gonna go pay my $2 fee. I'm gonna wait till thing is, it is what it is. To give you a sum up, most parks are visible through pedestrians and traffic and cars. There are very few parks that is accessible by vehicles. There is one that I know of in Miami that is only visible by pedestrians. They do not have parking and they do not have where you can have cars. But, we'll get to that one in the near future. Let me go up and pay. All right. $2. Yes. Sure, why not?
I'll grab a receipt for you too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I guess I go. Now, the entrance to this park, there are several entrances to the Hugh Taylor Birch State Park, but there's one entrance for motorists or vehicles. There's also an entrance to this park for pedestrians on the east side of the park, which is overlooking Fort Lauderdale Beach. And I will show you that in just a little bit. Here at this park, the reason why this park was named Hugh Taylor Birch State Park, because it was named after Hugh Taylor, which was a lawyer and a businessman. He has a house here that was built in 1940. Basically, I'm going to show you, you know, I'm going to show you some hot spots in here. Now, this is the second time I've been to this park, but I've known this park for a minute because this is an interesting park in the South Florida area. This park sits off us in Fort Lauderdale. Of course, as you know, like I said, because it's adjacent to Fort Lauderdale Beach as well. As you can see now, most parks has a long entrance into the park, like via, you have the ranger station. And most ranger stations, because they are park rangers, most ranger stations are adjacent or connected to the entrance, the entrance house. I call it the entrance house, which is the house where most of the guys, where you pay to get in to the park. And most of these parks have areas in the park like that are not visible, and they have animals and wildlife that's in the parks. Like here, it talks about, I'm going to show you, it talks about a gopher tortoise here, and basically what that is basically, a turtle. And it's telling you that they do cross the area, so you have to be careful on where you go. Interesting. Okay, now we're gonna take a walk down here. Now, the nature of these videos, I'm going to be doing mainly 30-minute intervals in the videos. I'm gonna stop the videos, as I walk, because by walking through with these videos, it takes you more time in the videos. So we will be taking a brief break and from this video, because we at the start of the entrance. And when I come back, we're gonna be halfway in the park. So I'll see you in a minute. Hey, welcome back. We are halfway, not halfway, but somewhat through Hugh Taylor Birch State Park. Where I'm walking to now, it's kind of sort of like a little small trail. Throughout time, you're gonna do the state parks and everything. The history about state parks, let me just put that. The history about state parks is that every state park in the state of Florida is a historical park. It is either worth historical from a person who used to live there, or it has historical meaning as far as anything that has to do with, life, meaning the war, a movement, the president, or anything that has to do with history, basically. So that's basically what the state parks are basically for. It's the same as national parks. Okay, right here it tells you Hugh Taylor Birch State Park has been well remembered for the little train that used to run throughout the park from the 60s through the 80s. Still today, we have many visitors as they enter our entrance station ask if the little train is still here. They are bringing their kids or even grandkids to see the park that they grew up visiting, as well as hopefully that the little train, they are telling them that they will. When given a ranger guided walk, we mentioned that the little train used to run through the park, and I have had an elderly person with a little twinkle in her heart mention to me that her longtime husband standing with her snuck their first kiss as the little train passed through the underground tunnel. I had another couple reminisce on how her husband had proposed to her while going through that very same tunnel. I have had several folks talk about how mischievous they were as kids hopping on and off that train. The train traversed a 3-mile ride winding throughout the park. We still have remnants of the tracks that will hopefully be replaced with a wonderful boardwalk which will connect to 3 miles of trails that once was the old train tracks. Now, what they're trying to say is what is behind me. Behind me, as you can see, if I can get a close view of it, right there is where part of the tracks that used to run through the 60s and the 80s. Now, this is something that was interesting to me because that was not posted the last time I was here, which was maybe about a few years ago or a year or two ago when I visited the park. These was one of the parks that was supposed to be part of our History South Florida link, but due to differences in our equipment, our connection was not going well with the taping of this show, so we had to postpone the taping of this show because of the services around here and everything our equipment couldn't get to. Now, this is part of the train that I'm going to show you the picture that houses the train. And this is part of, yeah, see, that's the picture of the train right there. Now, Hugh Taylor built his home in 1940. Now, it doesn't tell you online how long ago that this park was donated to the state, because all the parks that are all the state parks eventually has, like I said, had history behind it, and it was donated to the state for preservation. The reason why you pay an entrance fee, whether a vehicle entrance fee or a pedestrian entrance fee, is because you're help preserving these parks, because most of these parks have history, regardless if it's national history or if it's local history. And Hugh Taylor was a businessman in the early to mid 1900s, like 1940, what it says that he built his house in 1940. His house that sits here is now used as a tourist center, and it's open Monday through Fridays. We will not be able to see it because, of course, I'm sorry, this is a weekend. Now, what am I doing now? I'm walking through I call it a nature trail. Now, throughout most state parks, you're going to be seeing these type of trails. There are a few that may not have nature trails, and there's one in the South Florida, Miami area that does not have a nature trail. It has a nature trail, but it's not really considered to me a nature trail. As you can see, I'm surrounded by trees, and behind me there's a trail. The trail started near the section of where we just left, where the old tracks of the little train used to be at. Now, I'm doing this trail because it is adjacent to the road where the cars lead to. Now, along this trail, you're going to see animals, and you're going to see, things that you may or may not see, because there are wildlife in this. And so you're going to see things that let's see, well, not basically you, but myself as well. I've been to several of the state parks. There are some I have not been to yet that I'm working on visiting, but there are state parks I've been to, and I'm like, wow, this is very good. They really have some history. This park really doesn't have as much history. It's just an old state park, meaning that it's a state park that's been around for 30, 40 plus, maybe 50 plus years in anything. There are state parks that's been around for years, and they wasn't really a state park until the 60s and 70s when they was donated to, the state and preserved as a park. Because they basically, like I said, when I was saying, when you pay your fee to get inside the park, that's basically saying that you're preserving the park and you're help keeping the park preserved. Like, all it is, I know it's not something that you're trying to help preserve, but you're help preserving it and keeping the park open. Because as much as you know, these parks have activities. You can camp at most parks. They have picnic tables. This park I know has a restaurant that sits on the base on the west side of the park, which is also interesting because most parks don't have a restaurant. And it's adjacent to Fort Lauderdale, so you're eventually going to see the park as well. I'm going to take a quick break because, like I said, remember, going through this park, it will take me a minute to go through this park. And I know that my shows are no more than 30 minutes for each show. So I'm going to take a break and then we'll be back. Um, we'll be right back. Roundtable Talk. Hey, welcome back to the Roundtable Talk in our segment, History South Florida. We are at Hugh Taylor Birch State Park, one of the state parks in the Fort Lauderdale, Broward County area of Florida. And before we take a brief, like I said, it's going to be where I'm going to be in and out of the show because the walks here are long and they're, you know, yeah, the walks here are kind of long because of, the trails and anything of that nature. Now, this is a little bridge, which is not sort of a bridge because it doesn't go too much of that. The nature trail I was just on landed me back onto the paved road. There was also another nature trail across the street, but that nature trail only led to where we was coming from. There are several. See, there's a nature trail across the street. I'm gonna show it to you right there. It's right there. You see, it says nature trail. It's across the street. A lot of these nature trails lead basically to paved roads. They start at an undisclosed area and lead to paved roads. Now, there are nature trails that are not marked, meaning that people have made their own nature trail because there are plenty of areas throughout the, I would say, woods. Oh, yes, this is called the Butterfly Garden. It is called the Butterfly Garden, which is, I guess, the garden for the butterfly. We're going to go over here and check it out exactly. But like I was saying, a lot of these people have made their own their own nature trails throughout the tree sections in the woods. I would call them woods, and a lot of them have made their own because I've seen somebody while, I was walking, they was, I guess, walking their dog through their own trail. And I'm like, wow, there's their own trail. Now, the good thing about this one is most of these state parks are good for exercising. Like when you're walking or if you're riding your bike or like I just seen a father and a son with their scooter, which is a good thing. I'm going to walk up this way because I believe. Now this park goes around in a circle, meaning that the trails is a circle. It's not like most parks where you have a one way where you go up and then you have to turn around and come back. It has a circle area. Now towards the ending of our show, we will reach an area where the restaurant is at and where you can access the state park to the beach. That's also where Hugh Taylor's house is located in the area. Now, as you know, majority of the state parks are surrounded by residential areas, which is basically houses, homes, like how this is over here. As you can see, well, you basically can't see, but I can see there are homes that sit on the left of me that are owned by residents. And this is interesting to know. Right here from where I'm at, there's an entrance by some homes. And on this side, there's, a little swamp or a little canal or lake or pond, whatever you want to call it. And this is interesting. That's why I say majority of these homes, like majority of these state parks, are surrounded by residential areas because they don't sit far off in woods and far off like you would in a country where you got far off woods and stuff. They sit in common, regular areas. And so basically that's what you're going to be seeing. Now, One thing about this park is it draws a lot of people due to the fact it is adjacent to Fort Lauderdale Beach. This is a private drive area. This is probably one of the ranger uh, residents for probably the ranger or something of that nature. Now, like I said, most of this park is popular because it's basically, people call it a park, but basically what it is a state park. You know, it's not like a city park, it's not a county park, it's a state park. Because there's a difference. City parks are just regular parks with swings and playground and picnic tables, and some have swimming pools. The same thing with county parks. They have pools, picnic tables, you know what I'm saying? Well, some have pools, picnic tables, playgrounds, you know, and they're not as big than common parks, the city and the county. But a state park is more bigger than a city park. And because it's a historical park that sits on land that has been made historical, and not only that, it sits on, you know what I'm saying, what used to be owned by somebody. Now, I'm going through the reason why they call it a butterfly garden, I'm going to tell you, I meant to mention that. The reason why they call it a butterfly garden is because butterflies normally flock in and out of that way. I'm going to go, right now I'm going through another nature trail, which was not designated as a nature trail, but it's outlined as a nature trail, basically. So we're going to take another quick another quick break. And when I come back, I'll probably be near the end of the nature trail, and we can continue our segment of the show. So this is the Roundtable Talk. I'll see you in a minute. Hey, welcome back to the Roundtable Talk. Today, history, South Florida. Now, I was just on the nature trail, and it wasn't that far of a nature trail. Now, here it's called Marty's Meditation Garden. And I'm going to read to you what it says. Dedicated to the Marty Huizenga community leader and philanthropist who, along with her husband, Wayne Huizenga, supported the Friends of Birch State Park and its mission to bring Birch back. For future generations, we thank Marty Huizenga and the Huizenga family for allowing us and many of her friends to honor Marty in this way for her service to the greater Fort Lauderdale community. We gratefully acknowledge the founding donors to Marty's Meditation Garden, and they have a couple of people. Marty Huizenga, you know, and as you know, Wayne Huizenga, if most of you don't know, he's a businessman. He was also one of the owner of the Miami Dolphins at one point in time. And this is the meditation, I guess this is the area where they maintain. As you can see across the way, that is the waterways, of coastal waves, and of Fort Lauderdale. And this is, I guess, where people can come meditate, maybe do some yoga. You know, this was not here when I last came. So it's difference to everything. They have something where you can pull up. Wow, this is interesting. Oh, it's water down here. Basically, I don't know if you can see it, but it's water down there. Wow, this is interesting. Yeah. Basically. This is, yeah, and somebody left their kitty toys here. This is fun. Yes, it's a meditation garden. This is the other side of the state park, because this is the eastern side of the state park, because I was on the western side of the state park on the trail, and this is the eastern side of the state park. And basically this side of the park is more popular because it sits near water. And I'm going to be on the eastern side of the park in a minute, because I'm going to be showing you towards the evening. Like I said, our final destination will be the area of where the restaurant and the part of the beach where you can access to the beach. We won't be going to the beach, but we're going to be accessing part of the beach. Now, I'm going to go head to the waterways. Actually, I see a building that, you know, is a connecting building, but basically, and as you can see, the water and the beach and everything. I'm on a dirt road, basically. So, as another thing, I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna, you know, take you through a walk of this right here. It's fine. We're gonna take a quick walk into the area. There's also a parking area over here because there's a lot of picnic tables and stuff that accesses this stuff. And basically, I'm gonna be going up another trail. I'm just giving you a couple of minutes to see what's in the surrounding areas. Now, this is a great place to come out if you just want to hang out for a day, have some fun. They don't have a pool, but you can access the pool. Like, if you want to get in the water, you can go to the beach. Because all the state parks does not have pools. Majority of the state parks, well, actually, all to about 90 to 95% or maybe 100%, because I can't guarantee you all of them. But every state park I've been to is near the ocean or waterways or anything of that nature. So you're going to get majority of the state parks that has access to the water. But they don't have pools and they don't have water. This one has access to the beach. So basically you're going to have access to the beach. Now, in a minute, I'm going to go through another trail, but I'm going to take a quick break because as of now, I'm going to go back into another trail. And once I'm done with that trail, we'll be back. And I'll see you in a minute, the Roundtable Talk. Hey, we're back. Welcome to the Roundtable Talk, History, South Florida. I'm back on a nature trail. I'm on another nature trail. The trail I was on led to a side road on the waterways of Fort Lauderdale, which we're still inside the park. I'm just gonna give you some key things that you can read up on because this is our first show of History, South Florida. We originally, like I said earlier, started taping the show. Started doing the show, and our first show was a state park, which is further in the southern part of Miami. But the connection and everything of the taping didn't go well because it was bad and everything. And I did 2 other parks as well. But all the videos got lost in our system, and it was a minute before we uploaded them. So I was like, okay, we'll have to do it another time. And not only that, it was because when we first started doing the show, YouTube only allowed you to do, sections of the show. Meaning sections like you can only do like 10 to 15 minute, videos. So it was like we was taping all of our videos and doing like 1 and 2, 3 parts of the episode, part 1, part 2, part 3. Now YouTube has it where we can actually do a full show without having to stop the show, upload the video, do another show, do a second part of the show, upload the video, and then we will have to keep doing that till we get the full show taping. And we'll have like 4 and 5 videos just on one show. Now all of my shows are based off of one video. So it's a good thing. And so I've decided, hey, why not do a show about history of the South Florida area? Kind of interesting, as you can see. Wait, hello. And we started a couple of months ago, doing hotspots of South Florida. Oh, now this is a beautiful site. It's a little waterway, pond water. I'm gonna say you can see it. It's a waterway. Beautiful, kind of beautiful. Except for the little area right there. But a couple of months ago, there's another part over here too. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we started a couple of months a segment called Hotspots in South Florida, which is, basically, fun centers, family fun places to go at, entertainment places for the whole family and for adults as well. And we started it a couple of months ago. So I was like, hey, I need to get back into doing our tapings of our history shows. Now, History South Florida wasn't our first choice for the name. It was state parks, facts, figures, and history. And then I finally figured out History South Florida, which is a better name because it talks about the history of South Florida. Now this one, I did do a taping here, but it wasn't for the show. I was doing an online taping via Facebook. And the connection kept going through very badly because it kept going in and out because it was hard connection. That's what made a lot of my tapings for my shows bad. So I started doing, because I was taping via YouTube. And as I taped doing YouTube, the connections kept going in and out because of bad connection service. So I started, it was like, well, some of my shows was taped via YouTube. Some of them was not taped via YouTube. But it was the connection part to some of the parks, because some of the state parks that I visited, it sits off where they have woods and stuff, and a lot of the connection is very bad. So it was hard for the tapings to actually get taped. But, you know, as I go on, I say mostly every time I do a history show from now on, it will be through regular tapings, and eventually I will have to upload them to YouTube. So as you're getting this, this will probably has been uploaded minutes and seconds and maybe an hour or two after I have did this show. Majority of my shows happens right then and get uploaded right then after as I tape it, because majority of my shows get taped via YouTube. There are very little shows that I do that doesn't get taped, that doesn't get taped via YouTube. It gets taped regularly by just my regular device on doing my shows. Like my earlier shows was used via a computer, and my other shows, which is the hotspots in South Florida and also history shows, is via through my mobile device, and it's good. As you can see right now, we have exited one of the nature trails. As I told you before, a majority of the nature trails, some have nature trail signs that mark that it's a nature trail, some of them don't. Now over here is, we're gonna come up on a playground. You can see as we pass it, there's a playground. This is a playground. This lets you know that you're somewhere near the center of the park, because we've already reached the back part of the park, which is the northern end of the park. I call it the back end of the park because the entrance of the park is on the south end. The back part is the northern end of the park.